Many stories have been told about my homeland. Of the untamed wilderness and the amazing wildlife found within it. But one legend is greater than any other. We are the dominant predator here. Our power shapes the lives of all the other animals around us. But this is not the story you've heard before. The tale of a cub born to be king. When people say we're the king of the beasts, they don't know the reality of a lion's life. The real ruler is the lioness. Not only do we take care of the parenting, we also do most of the hunting. We are the heart of lion society. The future of the pride depends on our strength and tenderness. But success is no birthright. It has to be earned. The journey from cub to mother is long. It's a journey of bitter struggle and unbreakable bonds. A journey that very few ever complete. My name is Malika. And this is my story. In the world today, no more than 30,000 of us lions survive. Nowhere are we more abundant than here. My home, the Kruger of South Africa. This is my pride. And this is me. In my prime. Our family growing strong, our bellies full, good times. Just focusing on what we do best. Relaxing in the shade, being lions. We spend 2/3 of our day asleep, even longer if we can. But out here, the peace never lasts long. A lion's life is so savage. Sooner or later, your time comes. So now here I am, broken, wounded, alone, staring death in the face. looking back on life, searching for the strength to carry on. This might be where my life story ends. But let me tell you how it began, in a happier place. The first 6 weeks, it was just the three of us. My mom, my brother, and me. I was born lucky to a confident mother. All my food and water came entirely from her milk. My brother and I never went hungry. Never had any worries. Just all the love and attention two little lions could possibly need. As we grew up together. Even at this early age, I was learning lion. My mom would keep me clean, massage my belly to help my digestion. And whatever she did, I'd practice on my brother. Simple acts passed down through generations. Safe in my tiny world. Little did I know, family life was about to get complicated. At a month and a half old, I just couldn't wait to meet my pride. We are the only cats that live in extended families. So many aunts and cousins. I was in good company. We were 6 cubs in total, all similar in age, all sharing adventures. That's how my mother and her sisters grew up too. Bonded from birth. Bonded by blood. There are no alpha females in a pride. Lionesses share parenting duties and even nurse each other's cubs. One big family. I was close to my aunts, and they treated me like their own. This sisterhood has secured our pride lands for centuries. My calling was to keep it that way for future generations. But before a lioness can defend her territory, she has to discover it. And I didn't need any encouragement. My fortune would depend on an intimate knowledge of my home range. How to hunt in the thick woodlands, when it's safe to cross the open grasslands, and where to find water in the riverbeds that feed the land. But most of all, I had to get to know the other animals. Naturally, a lion has many enemies. The creatures we prey upon. And the other carnivores we compete with. We may be at the top of the food chain, but I was just a cub. There's quite a few who could have killed me. Hyenas are our most bitter rivals. Suddenly, I wasn't feeling so brave. On my own, I didn't stand a chance. Without a pride for protection, a lone lion is vulnerable. Especially a cub. That's where my father came in. His duty was patrolling the perimeter, defending our pride from other animals. And so I scampered home unscathed. My father's greatest challenge was fighting off other lions. Though he had my uncle for backup, they were both growing old. The threat of invasion was coming closer. And when outside males take over a pride, they will kill any cubs that are not their own. But a little lioness can't afford to live in fear or to lie around. I needed to focus on growing fast and learning quick. My mother was the ultimate trainer. She knew life would be full of fight. It was disguised as fun, but that's how she sharpened my skills. My mother and her sisters still played to keep on their game. Until I was as fierce as them, I picked on someone my own size. My sparring partners. Of the 6 of us, I was definitely the toughest. But I still wasn't killing it, so to speak. Becoming a great hunter needs to be approached one step at a time. My first taste of meat. Just like life, I was ready to bite in. If I wanted to grow strong, I had to fill up. But pretty soon, that wouldn't be so easy. By September, the dry season took hold. 3 months since the last rains. The land became parched. Life got tough for everyone. And tempers began to fray. The only water was miles away. Animals left our territory by the herd. And when prey moves, predators must follow. My mother and aunts were forced to spend more time out hunting. More time away from us. Even my father had to abandon his line of defense to help the hunt. Too young to join them, all us cubs could do was sit tight and hope they returned successful. The urge to explore got the better of me. They say curiosity killed the cat, but this time, it saved my life. Couldn't see what was happening, couldn't do anything to help. But that day shaped the rest of my life. By the time my mother and father returned, it was too late. Only my brother was still alive. But not for long. There was nothing my mom could do either. No point in chasing. The damage was done. Our already struggling pride was completely broken. A whole generation wiped out in a single day. Except for me. Hyenas may be our mortal enemies, but for one animal to thrive, others must die. It's not good or bad, it's just survival. So I had no one to grow up with, no one to share my journey. The entire pride's future resting on me. Losing my brother and cousins was devastating to our pride. Though we deal in death every day, we're not mindless killers. We're intelligent, sensitive, and just like you, we grieve. As a young cub, I didn't really understand. Maybe I thought I could make things better, cheer everyone up. But it turns out grief takes its time. A month later, my pride was still calling out. My aunts had lost their cubs. And my father needed reassurance. He knew his legacy was in danger, and that he was becoming too frail to defend our pride. So, it was up to us lionesses to be stronger than ever and carry the family through these brutal times. Male lions come and go. They're transitory in our lives. But the sisterhood is eternal. Our pride has held this same territory for centuries. And our legacy is handed down from mother to daughter. Now it was my turn to embrace my power and to lead as a lioness. I had the youth and vitality to give my family hope for the future. It was hard not having any cubs around for company. But now I was an only child, with the attention of the whole pride, giving me the best possible chance. If I was to live up to my potential, I had to pick myself up and make the most of each day. Push the boundaries, be fearless, and play hard. With no other cubs around, the adults had to be my playmates, as well as my providers. And when it came to food, I always tried to take the lion's share. I had quite the appetite. Every day was a chance to discover my strengths. And I was becoming 𝗪𝗫𝗀. Adventurous, kind, and a habit for hanging around in trees. As my confidence grew, the spirit of the pride was restored. We were united again, stepping down the road ahead. And I was set to be right at the center of the team. Or so I thought. My father had been defending our pride for over 5 years. Each day we grew stronger. He grew weaker. The threat of a takeover was inching ever closer. And when new males appear, any cubs from the old bloodline become a target. "5 months old, and I was one fierce feline. At least that's how I felt inside. Okay, so maybe it wasn't me who hunted that giraffe. You need experience to make a big kill. Far too much to finish, it was the perfect chance to play with my food. Let my killer instincts emerge. Slowly. Luckily, my mother was patient. The more space she gave me, the sooner I would become a real predator. But until that day, I was still prey. My mom was scared for my safety. Hyenas weren't her greatest fear. For the past few weeks, a young male had been venturing deep into our territory. She was clearly worried, but tried not to let it show. And as long as we were together, I felt safe. My mother's touch let me know I was doing okay and ready for the next big lesson in becoming a hunter. It's only when the sun sets that a lion's day really begins. The air is cool, the light is low. We gain an edge over our prey. Few ever glimpse our secret shadowy world. But our night vision is 6 times better than your own. 7 out of 10 kills are made under the cover of darkness. My first time on a hunt. And I was ready. But for some reason, my mom decided first I should just watch. I followed her every move. How she stayed downwind, used cover to get close. But the big lesson, hunting is hard. 90% of attempts fail. And that's without a cub tagging along. It was going to be a long night. Then the pride joined us, and the mood changed. If we didn't make a kill every couple of days, we began to starve. I had taken food for granted. Never realized how hard it was to catch. A herd of impala. I found cover and watched as the pride took positions. Saw how the lionesses coordinated a hunt, how they worked together to set a trap. Absorbed in the action, I lost sight of my mom. Then something spooked the impala. The ambush had failed again. Or had it? My mother came out of nowhere. But just because you make the kill doesn't mean you get to eat first. My father and uncle. It's pretty typical for males to muscle in on a female's hard work. But that night, they seemed extra aggressive. It was a sign. They were weak and hungry, desperate to keep up strength. But I had to look out for myself. I knew any hostility towards me was just a front. I was my father's last cub, the only chance to keep his bloodline alive. And once he was gone, it would be me alone fighting for every single scrap. The dry season passed. The rains arrived. The land flushed so green, I barely recognized my own home. And with the transformation came relief. Even for my father, though old, his love for me never wavered. And the force of our pride was unstoppable. It was time for the family to relax. But for me, it was time for adventure. When the dry season came around again, a whole year had passed. And I was almost fully grown. But just a kid at heart. Still liked hanging out in trees. Still just wanted to have fun. And luckily, my mother was still game. The older I got, the harder she could play. When I tired her out, I moved on to my aunts, who had a few rounds left in them. Not everyone was in the mood for play. My uncle died a few months before, leaving my father to deal with the increasing pressure from invading males on his own. Nothing I could do to help. Just save my own energy for when the battle came to me. Ultimately, all us animals out here are fighting for the same thing. To protect our little patch for the next generation to grow. Problem is, there is always someone bigger who comes along and tramples on your plans. Often, the only solution is to tackle the threat head on. When your family is on the line, you do whatever you can. But sometimes the stakes are just too high. The outside male was back. Stronger, closer. And this time, with his brother for backup. I was frozen, paralyzed in fear. My mother did her best to distract, leading them on, to lead them away from me. But they would not relent. Too young to bear cubs, I was of no value. Just a remnant of my father's bloodline they wanted gone. As soon as they chased me away, one of the brothers dealt with my father. The other set his sights on my mother. She would have to adapt to the new order. But my father's fate was sealed. After a life of fighting, he was done. That was the last time I saw him. There was no return. The moment the brothers took over was the moment my childhood ended. Banished from my pride, with no idea how I would ever return. Exiled and exposed. Without my pride, my chances were slim. Our social nature means we starve for contact. No warm bodies for comfort. No one to share food. Wandering the wilderness, I avoided the brothers by sticking to the no man's land between territories, only to find hostility from other prides. Nowhere was safe. Hunger was setting in. I had seen how hard it was for a lion to hunt alone, and I had never even made a kill before. No help to set an ambush. No help to run down prey. Everything was a long shot. In desperation, I made a serious mistake. When the rhino didn't run, it felt like a chance. A deadly one. But what choice did I have? I was lucky to escape with my life. But if I didn't find food soon, I would die. I had to learn to think like a scavenger and follow the telltale signs of carcasses. It was time to put self-respect aside and fight for scraps. But even they were not easily won. The same clan of hyenas that killed my brother. Their pack could easily overpower a single lion. I had to pick my moment carefully. Wait until my enemies had taken their fill. Then, finally, take mine. The last in line at a beggar's banquet. Without my pride, I was nothing. And all the time, they were so close, but so far. Whenever I encountered the brothers, I acted submissive. But they made it clear I was an outsider in my own land. Someday, somehow, I had to find a way back. My survival depended on it. The months spent in isolation were the hardest time in my life. Watching my own family from the outside. But there were glimmers of hope that things could change. One day, my mother found the courage to come over and greet me. The first affection I had felt in months. But the brothers were always watching. If I wanted to be accepted, I had to bide my time and find a way to earn my place back within the pride. At night, the brothers would go out on patrol. Once they were far enough away, I snuck back to my mother and aunts. It was the middle of the dry season. They needed to make a kill, too. I finally had the experience to help. After my close call with the rhino, I knew a badly planned attack on such a large animal wasn't worth it. So I hung back. Waited for a better chance. When they failed, I had another plan. It was time to put my climbing and scavenging skill to use. Okay, so I wasn't as nimble as a leopard, but good enough to intimidate it. As I climbed higher, the leopard fled. A little persistence, and I head for heights. And I claimed the leopard's kill. But the brothers had returned. I had to cut and run. But as they fed off my success, it gave me hope. Maybe this was how I could win my way back into the pride. As the dry season turned into a drought, I reached maturity. Sure enough, the brothers grew more tolerant. Perhaps they saw my potential as a hunter, or even as a mate. Or maybe they just didn't have the energy to chase me away. It was too hot to do anything, and famine was threatening our pride. Before things got worse, it was time for me to become Malika, the hunter. Even an old lone buffalo can be very dangerous. I began to stalk it. Then a strange thing happened. For once, I wasn't alone. Not only was I hunting with my pride, I was the leader. And I'd made enough mistakes to not mess this one up. When it came to the takedown, it was my time to pounce. Quick, efficient, the sisterhood working together. with me at the center. More than enough to go around, and we needed it. The brothers ate too. And this time, they had to accept I was back. Back at the heart of our pride. With all us lionesses working together, we got through the worst drought I can remember. Even so, none of us had the strength to raise cubs. Then, finally, the rains broke. It barely stopped for weeks. But no one was complaining. The land was rejuvenated. It seemed more vibrant than ever. Teeming with life and full of opportunities that we were ready to seize. But just when food and water were no longer a problem, new challenges emerged. After the rains, all attention turns to breeding. Males desperately try to win a mate. It's the same old story throughout the animal kingdom. They fight it out amongst themselves. The females watch on, waiting to see who comes out on top. The battles can get so intense. Sometimes it's best to leave them to it. Unfortunately, we didn't have that option with the brothers. We tried to appease and integrate them into the pride. But there was an underlying tension that we had to tiptoe around. The slightest wrong move, and all their frustrations boiled over. Though they were still young, the constant aggression in their lives was taking its toll. Days spent recovering from nights spent fighting with other males. To add insult to injury, the king of the beasts were being tormented by the smallest of foes. We were used to them. We just shook it off. I guess the brothers weren't so tough as they made out. Honestly, they weren't much use at all. But with no cubs to protect, we were doing just fine without them. I was gaining a reputation as one of the best hunters. And it was going to my head. After so much rejection, the feeling of approval was addictive. They say pride comes before a fall. But at the time, I couldn't see it happening. We set off stalking together. But I wanted this one for myself. A zebra is a real prize. It takes everything to win it. Strength, speed, and most of all, timing. Got to get close. Pick your moment. Then commit 100%. Another welcome meal. Interrupted by the usual unwelcome guests. I wasn't putting up with it anymore. I'd had enough of those who just take. We all had. Still getting it from all angles. The brothers were so battle-weary, something had to give. A lone but imposing male. It should have been easy. 2 against 1. But the new male was so intimidating. Only one of the brothers was prepared to fight. He soon regretted that decision. The brothers fled, tails between their legs, never to return. Whatever this new male was like, he had to be an improvement. Right now, we didn't really need his protection. We had that covered. Still, even the most independent lioness needs a male for certain things. Finally, my chance to become a mother had arrived. But fate had something else in mind. For a few months after the rains, my home felt like Eden. The long drought was long forgotten. And the brothers were nowhere to be seen. The new male was already displaying typical male lion traits. But, like my father, he was gentle and warm. And over time, I grew to like him. He followed me like a shadow, part wooing me, part guarding me. And in the end, I let him get close. It was the perfect time to start a new generation. And that was where I left him. My place was back in the pride, where I would find the security and tenderness I needed. Best of all, my mother was there to help as my own cubs began growing inside. Their father stuck around too, and his presence brought stability to our pride. I couldn't rely on him to stay forever, but I knew I had chosen well. His strong nature would give my cubs the best roots from which to grow. In the meantime, it was up to us lionesses to take care of business. So when we set out on the prowl, it was business as usual. Though I'd seen a lot of lions get hurt taking on buffalo, by then, I was hunting for glory. If a cat has 9 lives, I still had a few left. But I made a big mistake. Forgot how much I needed my pride. Thought I could handle this alone. I lost sight of the others. Let my ego drive. Didn't think about my babies inside me. If you deal in death every day, eventually it comes back to bite you. Catching up to a buffalo was the easy part. Finishing the job, that's a different story. We get killed more often hunting buffalo than any other prey. Taking on a 1,000-pound beast on my own was a very dangerous move. Suddenly, I was a victim. Broken, wounded, alone. For more than a day, I barely moved. As the scavengers began to circle, I tried to hide my weakness. I might last a week without food. But only another day without water. Though the pain was excruciating, my thirst was unbearable. After that, there was no plan. I could see no way out. It was just a matter of time. Days blurred into each other. I barely remember them passing. As I grew thinner, scavengers drew closer, just waiting until I couldn't fight back at all. Very soon, I would be dead. But something deep within me wouldn't let go. Hope was growing inside. A hope for the future of my whole pride. I heard a call, and I knew this wasn't how my story was supposed to end. As long as there was life left in my body, I would either find my way home or die trying. I was too frail to remember the journey. But with my last breath, I made it. Back to my mother. Back to safety. I was home. Though very weak, the pride gave me a place to heal and kept hope alive. It took time to recover, but slowly, strength returned. Three months after nearly dying, a whole new lease of life. I kept them hidden for the first few weeks, at the same riverbed where I was born. Then it was time to let them run free. My very own cubs, just a month old. And just like me, eager to explore. I found an even deeper love than I had for my pride. A love only a mother knows. Sure, it was exhausting at times, and I lost my patience. But it never lasted long. Not with cubs that cute. I just remembered what my mother did and let instincts guide. Tried to provide everything they needed. Plenty of milk, guiding hand, and someone who will always be there. Life had a new purpose, and so did my pride. We were growing stronger by the day. My cubs became more independent, and new ones arrived. The male stayed true, guarding over our pride, while we lionesses shared parenting duties and looked after all the young in one big family, just like it was with my brother and cousins. With so much care and support, I was safe to do what I did best: provide for the pride. Come rain or shine, us multitasking moms were making a killing. Putting food on the table and showing old enemies who's boss, both night and day. It's a good thing there are plenty of new 𝗪𝘁𝗺s in training.